All right, guys, welcome back to class. We are on to plays 11, 12, and 14. Again, hop around a little bit just because I thought these plays seemed to fit a little bit better together. And obviously, we're trying to cover as much information and like information as possible. So, a little bit of housekeeping. Case studies looked good. A lot of you guys had a very well written out RFP. Very, very impressed. Exam scores, a little bit up and down, kind of be expected. We got 26 people in this class. I knew we were going to kind of cross the entire gamut of grades. So some of you guys obviously are getting it very well. Some of you are struggling. Please reach out to me if there's parts of this that you don't understand, that you need further detail on. I'm behind 2 discussions. My hope is to have them all graded by tomorrow. That way we'll be up to date on grades with our next case study due, as well as our next exam, and then we're going into just 2 weeks of class left. So again, that's kind of our housekeeping stuff, all cut up there. Let's get into this one. Accommodating and managing guests, play 11. So this is going to start to talk about how we sell tickets, to who we sell tickets, and then how we manage our guests once they're there. Now, when we sell tickets, there's 2 types of ways of selling tickets. You've got reserved seats. Most of you guys are familiar with that, obviously. You buy a ticket to a specific seat. You've got general admission tickets, which means it's first come, first serve. Now, with reserved tickets, if you're going to have an event that has that, you're probably going to need additional staffing to help people find their seats, as well as solve any discrepancies that come about with someone saying that they're in my seat. You've got to have somebody who can kind of broker that argument, if you will. Now, with GA seating, one thing you do have to be concerned with, and the book does touch on this, is that when you have events that are incredibly popular, and think of concerts, think of Fan Fest, where your favorite driver, your favorite athlete is going to be available for pictures and autographs, and it's the first, it's first come, first serve. The moment you open those doors, what you'll usually have is a mad rush to the best seats. And what we really need to work on from the event side is how do we make that transaction as safe as possible? There are numerous horror stories out there about events opening up that they were free or general admission, where it's just a crowd burst of people and someone gets trampled or run over. There's injuries. They didn't leave enough space and you're caught up against barriers. So again, all of these things are something that you need to keep in mind and think of as you're planning your events. So when we talk about tickets, talk about when to begin to sell tickets and how we're going to sell the tickets. So first off, when. If you guys look at figure 11.1, does a fantastic job of kind of giving you, and you kind of got to go backwards, okay? Again, if the event day is June 15th, we got to back ourselves up and say, okay, when do we want to start selling certain tickets? Obviously there's advanced tickets, there's VIP tickets. If we're doing season tickets, because we're talking about an entire, the event is not just one game, it's actually 12 or 14 different games. How do we sell that package? Do we want our full season tickets going first, then followed up by 5 game packages, then followed up by group, and then individual tickets? So we're going to lay all of that out. And again, you really need to think this through, obviously, because this is one of the key revenue streams that's going to help make or break your event. Ticket revenue typically represents maybe an extra sponsorship, the highest revenue stream that you can have with an event. So this has to be well thought out. It has to coincide with our marketing plan, obviously. And then again, how we sell our tickets and to who we sell our tickets to. So we got to lay all of that out. You are going to hold back emergency tickets. If you're unfamiliar with running an event, this is something that almost every ticket manager usually will have. When I was ticket manager at Butler, I want to say I had 8 pairs of tickets in my back pocket. And this usually came about because of possible problems in the arena. For some odd reason, a seat got something on it. It can't be sat in. I got to move somebody. We've got, this has come up before. Somehow an opposing fan got into the wrong section per se. They're surrounded by home fans. Maybe we think that's not a good combination. They're not happy. They didn't realize where they were buying. They thought they were buying on the other side. We want to move them out of that area. Somebody may have had a bad experience. We had an issue when they came through the front doors. Maybe somebody got a little mouthy with them in the concession stand because they were having a bad day. In other words, they're complaining about how awful our event was, and we want to make sure we take care of them, and we can obviously move them to better seats is one of the ways. So you'll keep those in your back pocket. You always want to make sure you have one of those for any emergency that might come up. And again, as we look at how we're going to sell the arena, now we've already broken down the arena. As we talked about other chapters, or other plays, we said, okay, where's our price structure? Obviously chair seats down the floor are going to cost more. Then you've got sideline seats that are mid-court. Then you've got, the upper railing, and you keep backing up. when do we sell those? Do we want to have advanced purchases for certain members of our fan base? Alumni get an early bird special. They can purchase them 2 days in advance of the general public. It could be your donorship. It could be, if it's college athletics, is it going to be your staff? Your professors, all that kind of stuff. So we can kind of lay that out as well. And so again, our plan should make sure that it is obviously fair. The last thing we want to is have fans complain and yell and scream, but they didn't have a chance to buy the best seats possible, if you will. So again, you want to lay that out accordingly. Okay, how do we sell the tickets? Well, you guys are probably as familiar with this as anybody. Obviously, you can sell them online, and the internet has been fantastic with that. And now, so more than ever, you can actually download your tickets to your phone. You just show your phone, and they zap it when you walk in. It's as seamless as can be. You can still go to the box office, okay? And usually that's the venue where things are going on at. It could be a standalone kind of box office. For instance, on Butler's campus, Clues Hall at one time sold Butler basketball tickets and football tickets, as well as shows that were at Clues. We then opened a box office in Hinkle, so you could actually buy the tickets there. You can go through third-party vendors. And again, Ticketmaster is a perfect example of they're selling everything and anything. They could be selling it in Iowa, Indianapolis, New York, wherever. You can hop online and buy those tickets. And obviously, as you guys know, there's a service charge for those kind of things too. So again, that's kind of where we're going to go. And then obviously you can buy day of tickets, and that's going to be at the box office at the venue site. Most events want to have the majority of their tickets sold before that day. Why, you might ask? Well, day of, anything can come up. If I've already invested in the tickets, I've made plans to go. You don't spend $50 on concert tickets or $100 on concert tickets or $200 on Pacer NBA final tickets and decide not to go. You've invested the money, you've made the plans, you're going to go. But if you're waiting for that walk-up crowd, so many things can affect it. Obviously, number one is the weather, and you guys know, living in Indianapolis, if you're trying to sell basketball tickets, that's a crapshoot. I mean, that is, I can remember having days where it was still 65 out in, January. We got some kind of weird day. And the next thing you know, it was -10. There were 4 inches of ice. There was, 8 inches of snow. And there was no way anybody was getting to the field house. And therefore, I had no walk-up. So I don't want to depend upon that because I can't control some of those aspects. You can't control natural disasters. You can't control what's going on in the news in the world. If there is any kind of freeze on travel. Again, we talk about the weather. We've had times when the governor has said, nope, no travel, except for emergency situations. Maybe we got the 2 teams there early enough in the day. They're going to play because that team's got to fly on to their next game in 3 days. So, but that revenue's lost. I have no walk-up crowd. So, again, the more you can sell in advance, the better off you are. Now, there also, the book touches on a little bit about ticketing for free events. And again, that's just kind of a cool way. You have a reminder in your hand that this event's coming up. It almost acts as an advertising and marketing piece, if you will, because you don't so much have to have the ticket to get in and buy it. You just need to show the ticket when you come to the door. It could become a keepsake as well, which is always kind of nice. So a lot of different ways to handle the ticketing end. All right, so as we're putting our plan together, and you will have good plans that fly, work, no problem. You'll have plans that for whatever reason just did not work for that event. The book has the best thing to look at. It's the decision tree. It's figure 11.2. Guys, really read through and know this. This is a fantastic way of how you react when ticket sales are not going your way, or they are eventually going your way. I can't begin to tell you how many times we thought we had stellar events and things happen. And again, a perfect example of something that's coming up this year. And again, I'll use my alma mater only because I'm tied in more to the athletic department there. Butler's in the Big East, if you guys all know. They're going to play Villanova at home this year. That's the defending national champion. That game should sell out well in advance. Okay, they're coming off a national championship. A number of the guys who play on that team are still back. They're a competitive team. They'll be ranked in the top 25, and most likely they'll be playing for another Big East title. That game should sell out, again, well in advance. But let's say at the beginning of the year we find out that Villanova's, the guys who are left, 2 of them sprain ankles, 1 of them's academically ineligible, and lo and behold, all of a sudden, they just tank. And all of a sudden, we're a month and a half out, they're 2-16, and all of a sudden, the game that we had marked as being a huge revenue generator is not picking up at all, because all of a sudden, that game isn't nearly as attractive since that team isn't playing up to the level of what they've been at in the past. And believe it or not, I've seen this on many, many occasions. And now it's a scramble mode because that is a game, it's a prime game for us. Maybe we're going to be on TV. Maybe we have an ESPN special package. Actually, it would be Fox. So, I mean, how are we going to handle that? The decision tree is phenomenal for when you kind of start looking at things, what actions we're going to take, and how they lead us into hopefully getting more bodies there. So guys, really make sure you look at that. Make sure you know that. They're going to talk also about papering the house. This is one of those things that is very, very hard for any organization to have to go through. A lot of times it is done for more of the television audience. So if I'm making, and again, we talk about different revenue streams we have, right, guys? So we've got advertising revenue, we've got broadcast right revenue, ticketing, sponsorship. If this becomes an image thing where we have to show that this event is well attended, popular, worth everyone's 2 or 3 hours, then what we might do is called paper the arena. And at that point, it's really a last-ditch effort where you're going to go out and just basically give away tickets. We want bodies in the stands. For this particular event, it's more important that the ambiance, that the character, that the stands are full. And it could be your first-time event where we're trying to sell this again for 2, 3, 4 years down the line. We want to show that it's popular. And unfortunately, if we've gotten to the point of papering the arena, we've made mistakes. Whether it's how we marketed ourselves, what our advertising was, our ticket pricing, what have you. Now we've got to make up for it. Now we've got to get bodies in the stands. Again, not something you want to go to. And again, I wish that upon none of you. So again, fingers crossed it won't happen to you guys. So guest management. Now we're getting into how are we taking care of our guests once they're in the building. And when I say guests, guys, remember an event has a number of different people involved. Everything from the participants to the volunteers to your VIPs to your sponsors to player parents, Joe Public, on down the line. I mean, it could be future sponsors that you're bringing in that you want to make sure you show how the event works. It could be, again, key vendors. I'm going to read a little bit, alumni, celebrities, those kind of things. So again, how we manage our guests is crucial to the experiences they're going to have and the feedback we're going to get. Okay. Now, if this is a high-level event where you're going to have a number of A-list celebrities, most of you guys know those people want closer to the floor seats. You guys watch Knicks games, you watch Laker games. Again, you're going to see those celebrities down that lower level. If we know they're coming and we want that element there, we want them to be seen at our event because that brings credence and that brings attention to us, then we need to take care of them accordingly. Same thing with your VIPs from a sponsor standpoint. These are people who invested money in this event. We want to make sure they have good seats. Your participants, if their moms and dads are coming, we want to make sure they can actually watch them perform. It's standard operating procedures almost at every college, especially college basketball, that behind the visiting team's bench, there typically are 25 to 30 tickets that are saved strictly for their guests. And they'll have pass lists they put together. So it could be a friend, it could be a recruit in the area actually. Most likely it's family and friends, and they sit behind the benches. And that way they're near the team, they're away from the rest of the home team fans, and obviously they're taken care of, they have very good seats. So, again, take a good look at figure 11.3. It talks about different things as far as who you have to worry about coming in and how they're going to be treated. Are they paying for the tickets? Are they complimentary? Is it going to be a VIP pass per se? Is it all access? All of these things you need to take into account as you're working through your ticket structure. So we talked a little bit about conflict seats, mistakes that have to be fixed. Obviously, we always keep tickets in our back pockets when that happens. I have seen systems that have sometimes double sold tickets. There's nothing worse, especially if they're lower seats where you can't maybe get an equal seat. That's always a disaster. So again, you want to make sure you're thinking through all of this, and you want to make sure you have a plan in place to take care of these as they come up. The last thing in this chapter, which is probably one of the things I enjoy most because I've gotten to play in this world, is hotel management. And from an event side of things, it's going to ask, what does the event want from the hotels, and what's the hotels want from the event? Well, obviously from the hotel side, we're looking for heads and beds, okay? And we basically want rooms, and we want them to be guaranteed and want them to stay as long as possible, okay? And if we're really going to be greedy, we want them over certain time periods when we have trouble drawing transient traffic, okay? So, along with that is you want people who obviously are going to respect your hotel, and you want them to have ancillary money to spend besides their overnight rooms. Now, this could be one of a number of different things. Are they eating in the restaurant? Are they drinking in the bar? Are they buying stuff from our souvenir stands? Are they taking advantage of any of the services the hotels are offering, especially when you get into your 4 and 5 star hotels that have spa services and concierge that can take you to and from and get you set up with tickets and those kind of things. But also, from a bigger picture for a hotel, if we can get food and beverage functions, that's always huge as well. So again, I'll give you a perfect example. We've got the Final Four for the men's team 2 years ago. 2 years ago? 2 years ago. And we end up having, so the event, we had sponsors. We had Warner Ladder. I'm going to forget the other two. But we had 3 sponsors total. So for us, that was wonderful. Number one, because they were staying for the entire event. Okay, they wasn't like a team who might come in, lose in the semifinals, and take off, and then we've got to do something with those rooms. The kicker was too that these sponsors were planning events for those people who were attending, and a lot of them were on trips. Either they were high rollers for that particular sponsor, they might have been employees that had reached a certain pinnacle and were being rewarded with this trip. It just depended. So, but they were having receptions and dinners and lunches and, again, spending extra money with the hotel. So from a hotel side, we're looking for revenue, we're looking for heads and beds, and we're looking for longer stays if all possible. From the event side, and again, I have been privileged to be on both sides of this. I always said whenever we traveled for basketball, for volleyball, I got to travel for baseball once, you wanted a hotel that embraced you. Okay, and I can give 2 fantastic examples. We were in North Carolina. This was my first year, so 1997, 96, and the hotel just totally embraced us. We showed up. They're wearing our gear. They've got our colored balloons up. There's banners. There's signs. They'd gone in the restaurant, had changed the name of their food items to match the university. They had something about our mascot. They had something about our coach. They knew our colors. They knew our history. They, again, could not have been a better experience other than the outcome of the game, which unfortunately was lost on a buzzer beater. A year later, we go to Kansas City and have the complete opposite. They didn't have anything up in the hotel. They didn't acknowledge that we even existed. And actually, for the first time in 35 years, my alma mater won an NCAA tournament game. And so the news people from Indy were trying to interview all the fans because obviously we were beyond excited. The hotel honestly would not let the media into the hotel to interview us. We had to go out in the streets or to a cafe across the way or a restaurant. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And they got letters from everybody, the AD, all the fans, director of sports marketing. I mean, it was just ridiculous. So, again, you want that to be a partnership. Okay, the hotel wants to know that your event is going to give them good business. Okay, solid business that they can rely on. From the event side, they want, if it's a participant, they want a good night's sleep. They want them to be unbothered and treated well. If it's the fan base, they want the experience that they're seeing at the game to extend into the hotel. Okay, it should almost be seamless. That wherever they're staying at is into this event from one end to the other, and we're trying to make this experience, 1 in a million. Okay. Helps the event, obviously. It helps them hopefully bring them back to us. Again, who knows? Maybe they're coming back for that event 2 years later. Could be another Final Four. If you're out in Omaha for the College World Series, you're back there every year. Maybe we get you as a family coming through to travel now because you had such a good experience when you came here to watch your team play. Could be a business trip. Always, always, always presenting yourself for potential business. So that is Chapter 11. We're going to switch over to Chapter 12 here real fast. These are a little bit shorter. I'm going to buzz through these pretty fast. Presenting your event is what we call Play 12. And what I would have you guys do is, if you look at Figure 12.1, I think this was a great way of laying out, from a presentation side, this box is perfect. It says, to meet the minimum expectations of the audience, sports events must be presented so that fans are, 1, able to see the competitors they came to watch. It makes sense. If I'm paying for tickets to watch a game, I want to be able to watch a game. No obstructed seats. No banners in my face. Fans are not allowed to have big old hats on, and I can't see. These are things you actually have to think about when you run an event. Able to visually comprehend the progress of the event or the competition. Do I have the information up to tell me what the score is? Can I see what's going on down below? Can I see adjustments that are being made? I have a good view of the bench, so I know who's getting ready to come in. If someone's injured or working with a trainer, I still, you want them to be able to see everything. And now that's more important than ever because you're competing heavily with TV, which is getting a lot of accesses to areas that you as a fan in the stadium don't see. There have been major arguments that made that sometimes that they think that TV gets too much access, and that I as a fan that stay home get so much better of an experience other than the noise and maybe the emotion from what you feel in an arena. And that's still an important enough thing to draw people like myself, and I'm sure people like lots of you guys, out to an event. But there are also people who say, hey, I can watch the game, I can hit instant replay 400 times, I can pause it and go to the restroom when there's no lines. These are things you have to keep in mind, okay? They need to be kept informed of official results and critical information. And again, I kind of touched on that earlier, scoreboards. If there was some form of, there's a foul call, but the officials are huddling up, is the PA announcer explaining what's going on? Is it up on a Jumbotron to, here's the rule that they're quoting, or, there was a flag on the play and blah, 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 and it's fully explained to everybody. Lastly, are they excited and are they entertained? And that's where the live event cannot be matched with a televised event. Most of you guys know, if you've had the privilege of being at special events, and I have been blessed to be at so many buzzer-beating shots on both ends. I have seen great upsets. I have seen great plays. That excitement with the fan base, with the players, with anybody involved in the event is so hard to capture. That part's hard to capture on TV. You can see everybody jumping up and down. You can kind of hear the noise. But, I've told people many times, I went to ball games at Purdue. I've been to ball games at Butler. The privilege of working for the Pacers. I've been to Colts games where literally there were moments in the game where it felt almost like you lost hearing, or you lost a couple seconds because you were just so overwhelmed by the emotion, the chaos, and the craziness that I always there's a game my second to last year at Butler where we had been up 17. The opposing team had come back in the last 3 minutes of the game and had a 2-point lead. And one of our freshman kids, we got an inbound. He went down the court in 4.2 seconds left, hit a buzzer beater at the horn in front of over 11,000 people, and that game decided the conference championship. And I don't remember anything after the ball went through the net. All I know is I was supposed to be standing next to the visiting team's bench and walk them to their locker rooms. And the ball went through the net, and the next thing I remember is I'm standing out near half court with all of our students as they're cheering and jumping me down, when it dawns on me I need to get back and actually take care of the responsibilities I have. Sports does that, guys. You guys know that. It's emotional, it's exciting, and that's, again, why the event, if you can sell it right, it's one of those special occasions. So I'll go off my high horse now. So again, figure 12-1, take a hard look at that. This chapter really talks about kind of the things around the event. So again, ceremonies, entertainment elements, your pregame. Guys, the book does a fantastic job of kind of laying out everything from the national anthem to the PA announcements to the promos, the scripts you're going to use, just really everything that goes on around it. And it is important, especially as you get to larger events, what you have going on. And you're going to have a ton. You're going to have special guests that come in, and it could be anything from a local DJ who is running all of your promotions, and he's got a popular, following, so he's out there getting the crowd all hyped up, and you obviously have to be able to manage that. You may have a national anthem singer that comes in that's renowned. Could have been on The Voice. Could have been, obviously a signed artist someplace. It could just be something very special as the children's choir. And now you've got, 400 of their parents in the stands. So obviously this is a big deal to that part of your crowd. One of the best I've ever seen is we had a player's dad come in and sing the national anthem, and he was good. And he still comes back even though the players graduated. So a lot of neat things like that, and you're going to have to manage those elements. Now that kind of leads you into a different area, and that's the production planning and kind of how the event takes off from the moment, or even before the moment you open the doors, to that last fan leaves. And guys, one of the best sayings we ever had when I worked in athletics was, we wanted to appear like a duck on water. Calm and cool on the surface, but paddling like hell underneath. You never wanted the people to see how much work went into it, how much maybe stress, or how fast you had to get from here to there and everywhere else, and the different things you had to juggle. And again, we talked about this a number of times. You know, we see the large events. We see the Super Bowls and the Final Fours and the Olympics that are coming up here in a couple weeks. And again, that's on a level that is, I hope all of you get the chance to experience some of that from a game operation standpoint, because it truly is incredible to watch something like that put on. But don't think that it's any less stressful when you're putting on the local AAU basketball tournament or a cheerleading competition for your region. It's just as crazy, and there's just as many details that have to go into it. Timing is key. We're opening the doors at this time. Okay, let's back up. What has to be done before those doors open? The court has to be set. The scorer's table has to be set. Our media representatives have to have their area all ready to go. All of our ticket takers need to be in place. Our program people need to be in place. Do we have cash for all the ticket windows? Okay. Do the program sellers have enough cash? When they run out of cash, who's their point person? It's a free giveaway today. We're giving away bobblehead dolls. Do we have enough volunteers on up at the doors? How many do we have? What do we do when the last one gets given away and we've got a 4-year-old crying because they didn't get a bobblehead? All these things are diagrammed out, okay? And that is given to all your ops people, and they're going to walk through and make sure, okay, that's just till the doors open. Then when the doors open, now you're on the game clock, okay? And now you've got multiple things going on. Besides all the extracurricular stuff going on around the event, you're also managing the event itself. Hey, 45 minutes for the game time. Both teams can take the floor for warm-ups. 30 minutes for game time. The officials are going to come out. They're going to inspect the balls. They're going to talk to the scorer's table to make sure everybody's on cue as far as what different things mean, how they're going to call fouls, who the point person is. TV just got involved because now all of a sudden we're going to cut in a little bit early or a little bit later because the game in front of us went in overtime. So now we've got to back that clock up some. National anthem singer has to go off before we go live on TV because they don't usually broadcast that unless it's something special. And that's all going on while you're doing everything else around the perimeter. We're taking that youth basketball program and they got to line up just outside the bench for the 5-minute mark so they can walk on, shake hands with the players, stand for the national anthem, get them off again before, we have to tip the ball up. All of this, guys, is going to be in this master timing schedule, if you will. And it is phenomenal to do. It's phenomenal to watch. And when it goes off without a hitch, you just sit back and kind of, got through that one. But, again, you're going to have issues. You're going to have problems. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit. So, again, you guys, follow through the book. Good things about timing, scripts for your PA announcers. The production schedule on 12.8 is a great thing to look at. This really does a fantastic job of kind of walking you through. I mean, this obviously goes into an entire event, not just game day. So that's kind of even a wider, broader picture, if you will. And then you'll get down into the minutiae as you get closer to the game days. Rehearsals are key. And again, the book does a great job of touching on that too. Sectional, meaning we're going to take different sections and we're going to simulate what the event would be like. You're definitely going to see this on your bigger events. The Super Bowl does a number of practices, rehearsals, and run-throughs when it comes to their halftime show, getting those stages on and off, getting the people who are participating on and off. Obviously, you're restricted by time from a TV standpoint, from a player, again, getting ready at halftime standpoint. So all of that gets rehearsed. The book does a great job about talking about blocking, determining this is where we're going to enter from and here's where they're going to exit at. And that way they don't cross paths with these two. Both teams will enter the floor at the same time, but they've got to enter from opposite directions. They aren't running each other. It's funny. As dumb as it may sound, when the national anthem is being sung and your color guard's on the floor, they will turn to their right and they will walk back out and down the steps. And it's because, again, it's a moving show. As they're leaving, the opposing teams and the teams are starting to come out and get everybody hyped up. We're going to do starting lineups. So we've got a presentation at half court. We're going to hand the game ball to the officials by one of our sponsors. The band's going to be off to the side. The cheerleaders have to part, and they're going to be over here anyway so that these guys can get out. You have to think all of this through. And it is something else. Like I said, for a first-timer, it will keep you up at night. Just trying to make sure you get people on and off the field or the floor at the right time. So again, that's kind of presenting your event in a nutshell. And again, the book, like I said, make sure you read through the book. It goes into greater details. I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter. I'm doing a job on that. Last chapter, chapter 14, Managing the Unexpected. This really should be titled, Anything That Can Go Wrong Will at Some Time Go Wrong. Again, guys, I had the privilege of being involved in athletics for 10 years as a full-time employee and 4 as an intern. And I can tell you right now, the things that you have to plan for are the things you don't plan for that you're surprised that you should have planned for. And one of my favorite stories, we when I was my first year at Butler, so I am running the show basically because our director of sports marketing was our radio personality. So he's on air, and at that time, so then it defaults to me to make sure everything runs smoothly, which was great for a 22-year-old who had limited game experience. So before a game starts, all of a sudden I get an usher that comes running over to me and says a fan got hit on the head with a sign. And I can remember looking at him going, you have to tell me that again. They go, a fan got hit on the head with a sign. So I go over to where the fan's at, and lo and behold, it was our sponsorship signs were these thin boards that were attached to this railing. And there were seats that were kind of under them when you got into the corners. And by God, one of them broke away, came down, and cracked this woman around top of the head. Now, she was a die-hard fan, thank God. We took her back in the training room. She had a very, very good-sized gash on her head. And we had doctors in-house. We had always had doctors on site. But then a number of our alums were docs. And so they had seen what had happened and came back to the training room. And they gave this woman the option. They said, look, we can take you to the emergency center, or we can stitch you up right here if you want. She goes, go ahead and stitch me up right here. I cannot. They numbed her up. They stitched this cut up. I, of course, run to the bookstore. I'm getting sweatshirts, hats, anything to do just to tell her, God, we feel so sorry. Can I move your seats? Da-da-da-da. She goes, no, I like my seats. I'm going to sit with my friends. And so, gosh, she had sweatshirts. She had hats. She ended up hugging me and saying thank you when it was all done. I'm like, thank you? We caused you 5 stitches on the top of your head. So, you do have to manage these things. They will go wrong and you can fix them. And obviously we have a fan for life in that young woman. There are other times it's not going to work out that well. But again, if you look at 14.1, the risk management process, guys, take a real hard look at this, okay? Because you are going to look at a lot of different things. You're going to look at the feasibility of it, okay? And that's going to probably tell you how much emphasis you're going to put into it. You're going to look at, how do we avoid them? What happens if we can't? We got to have a plan in place, and that's usually your crisis plan. But you got to play devil's advocate in a lot of areas. And guys, these are, I hate to say it, you have to think of some of the worst case scenarios. And again, I have been a part of a number of different events that, in hindsight, we had crisis plans in place, and that's why they end up going our way, luckily, and again, the individual's way. But you think of what could have gone wrong. And I say that in the fact that we had an official that had a heart attack on the field, and we had protocol in place. We had 2 doctors in the stands. They're giving him CPR. I happen to come down, know that we have an ambulance on site. The AD has me run get the ambulance. They bring him down. They actually used the defibrillator in this guy 3 times. He lifted off the field. He sat up, said he felt great and wanted to continue the game. And we're like, no, you can't. Threw him in the ambulance. He had triple bypass surgery the next day. That guy is not alive if our crisis management team didn't know how to react to the situation. We had a gentleman who, after a run on campus, had a heart attack right in front of the athletic building. It just so happened that one of our assistant ADs was behind him when he collapsed. He ran inside. He knew where our defibrillators were. He shocked him, brought him back to life. And the guy, to my understanding, that was almost 15 years ago, an older gentleman. I think he's still alive and kicking. He's probably in his late 80s. So again, guys, those are things you have to worry about. You're worrying about the safety of your fans. You're worrying about the safety of your players. Most of you guys probably saw the Malice in the Palace a few years ago between the Pacers and the Pistons. That is an event manager's worst nightmare. Fans going into the athletic venue, or the floor area, if you will. Players, participants coming into the fan area. Nothing can ever go wrong. Emotions usually are high. Obviously, there are people who could have gotten seriously hurt. You're talking about athletes who are worth millions of dollars to their profession, their teams. You have fans, obviously, who are paying, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars to partake in these events. The last thing you want is that kind of animosity where now you're talking about someone getting hurt. So, again, weather. We talked a little bit about it. You've got to have plans in place for inclement weather while you're in the arena. All of a sudden, a tornado hits your area. What do? Where do you take 15,000 people? Where do you take 10,000 people? You may have weather warnings, bad storms come up after a game. What are you going to do? Do you shelter everybody in place? Do you end up, keeping concession stands open a little bit longer to make sure people can be fed if they were waiting for a storm to pass through? What if you're outside? What do you do? I've been at many, many baseball, softball, soccer games where you start to have lightning strikes and you've got to get people into shelter. Their cars. If you had outdoor locker rooms, great. If not, we had to get them back up into to a campus area. Couldn't play again for 30 minutes till after the last lightning. All of these things, guys, safety and security of your teams, of your participants, your staff, and your fans. Now, unfortunately, in the world we live in now, terrorism also comes into that. And you probably will not see it at so much of the smaller venues. Terrorists, to this point, and I knock on wood, have tended to try to take on the more grander events. Obviously, it's a bigger stage. It gets them the attention I think they're desperately looking for. So, but that is something as you guys climb up, the ladder into bigger events, that's going to be taking, something you have to think about. And that brings in a whole different element of safety and security and training and having professionals on site, obviously from, your police to military personnel and what have you. So again, these are all kind of things that you as an event planner will have to take into consideration as you're putting together your crisis plans. The book also talks about, insurance, liability insurance if someone does get hurt on site, if a player were to get hurt. Cancellation insurance, you're having an event outside, there's just, it's a one-time shot. And a lot of times I think outdoor concerts run into this a lot too. They're on the road the next night. They're playing Indianapolis tonight, Bare Naked Ladies, for example, and then they're in Chicago the following night. They can't redo it. That event cancels. Do you need to have insurance on top of that? Are you going to give people their money back, or is it hey, you take the risk, buyer beware. If it rains or lightnings and we can't perform this, you're out the money and the tickets. So, those are something you need to keep into consideration. When you're having events and you're having if you're having participants involved from, say, a standpoint of like a county tournament, a lot of times you have those people sign waivers. I get hurt sliding in the second base and break my leg. I'm not holding the tournament responsible. I assume that risk when I step on the field. Same thing if you're going to have a participant they're going to do the dizzy bat spin at the third time out of a game. I sign the waiver knowing that I'm taking the risk that when I spin around, I could fall off the court, go crashing into the bleachers, and get a concussion. So you got to have those in place. Again, that goes into the liability. Make sure you're reporting all accidents. You've got a great report set up in case you do have to go. Somebody wants to bring charges. Somebody wants to bring a claim. You've got everything detailed out. These are things you guys got to think of. And I know it seems somewhat far-fetched, but trust me, I've been at many events, big and small, where it has become an issue. So the last thing we're going to talk just real briefly about is reacting to the emergency. So you have your crisis management team. You've got your plan in place. Well, how do you react when it happens? Because, guys, it is so much different to react to it than to have the hypothetical in your office to talk about what you're going to do in case of a player drops of a heart attack or a fan has an issue. It's incredibly different to be there live, and some of the things you have to worry about. I can remember we got the EMTs down to the field. They weren't going to take that ambulance. We had to bring a different one in, but because some people had parked illegally, we couldn't get the ambulance up. We had to move car. Just things again, you go back. The best laid plan still can have a hiccup. How do you react? What's the chain of command? Who makes the call on different things? And you got to have that point person. And again, in most events, you're going to have an event manager. It could be the athletic director. It could be, you have an events director, if you will. Everything starts and ends with him. And again, communication is key. Whether it's walkie-talkies, whether it's in-person discussions, they're talking about suspending an event because of lightning or weather concerns or safety. The fans have gotten out of hand. We got to figure out what's going on here. And I've been in situations that too where you begin to fear for the participants' safety, if you will. And I've been on the road when that's happened. So again, how is that all going to work out? So communication is key. You need to have that chain of command well before that game so we know, hey, I've seen this. I report it to here. They report it up. There's a discussion, and it's filtered back down to me to make the actual action. So guys, there's our 3 chapters. Again, I'm getting a little shorter on these. I'm trying to hit the highlights for you guys. We've got case study 2 coming up. We have exam number 2 coming up. A few more discussions. Like I said, I'll have 3 and 4 graded by tomorrow. Any questions, you guys always know. Reach out, call, talk, what have you. Best of luck with everything. We'll talk to you guys next week.